The Championship is well and truly back, and what a weekend of football we have just had in the Championship. It feels like we've had everything. We've had late goals, we've had horrendous refereeing decisions, and we've just got the general Championship drama that you seem to get every single weekend in the Championship, and we are so happy to have it back. If you're a Championship fan, we do daily Championship content, so if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, it only takes 1 second, and if you're a fan of the Championship, this is the place to be, so do hit that subscribe button, and do as well, drop a like if you do want to enjoy the video. We talk about all your teams every single day, by the way, so do drop a subscription if you are a fan of any Championship club. And the first thing that we've learned from the opening game week is just that the Championship is the most competitive in the league in the world. Now, we already knew this kind of information, yes, but if you have a look at the results here, the amount of games that had 1 goal in it or were draws were the vast majority of games. And then the game of Stoke against Stoke and Derby, which obviously Stoke won by 2 goals, it was 1-1 until like the 93rd, 95th minute, whatever it was, when Stoke got that first goal to make it 2-1. So as I say, really close game in every single match, bar the game that you'd probably say would have gone the other way in terms of what you'd expect, with Bristol City and Sheffield United being the only real game where there was a big difference in terms of scoreline and in terms of general performance, because Sheffield United were woeful in that game compared to Bristol City, who were just ruthless on the counter-attack, really, with less possession in that match. But as I say, it just shows how competitive this league is going to be this season. I've spoken about it numerous times in my predictions, where I just don't think there's much difference in ability between so many of these teams. You're going to have the teams at the top of the league where we'll talk about them, who I think is going to be at the top a bit later on in the video, but you know, you've got the teams that you expect to be up at the top, where I do think there might be a bit of a gap then to the rest of the division. But you look last season, if I go back to the point of last season, if we just quickly have a look at it, in the 24-25 season, from Sheffield Wednesday, as you can see there, in 12th position, they got 58 points. Luton got relegated on 49 points. 9 points difference between top half and relegation. That is just how little difference in quality, in my opinion, there is between each team in the division. There's a lot of teams that are a very, very, very similar kind of playing field, and there's so many games where, as I say, in the Championship, you always know that anything can happen, and the games are so unpredictable. And again, results like this on match day 1 just proves why these teams and why these games are going to be so unpredictable. And as I say, this is what makes the Championship the best league in the world, and it's not going to change. These teams are going to be so competitive against each other yet again. It's going to be so close down in that kind of middle of the table to bottom of the table. I really do think it could be anyone in terms of them kind of teams from 12 downwards again that could get relegated this season. So many teams, so much potential. Another point that I wanted to talk about is the newly promoted teams. They're not here to mess about. We've seen now in the last 2 seasons in the Championship, both seasons, every single newly promoted club has stayed up, including one in Ipswich Town that got promoted. Now, could we potentially have that again with a newly promoted team maybe finding their way towards the Premier League next season? We've got to start off with Birmingham City, who of course played against Ipswich on that first night. I've done an in-depth video speaking about it if you've not checked it out. But, for Birmingham to go toe-to-toe and be the better team against the heavy title favourites in Ipswich, everyone's saying that Ipswich should be walking the league, and with the quality of the squad they've got, they spent 150 million in the Premier League. Everybody then, of course, saying that Ipswich should be absolutely steamrolling teams in this division, and Birmingham City have proven and have proved that they can go toe-to-toe with the best team in the division and outplay them, in my opinion. And it's got to be worth saying as well, with St Andrews as well, with it being rocking the way it was, and if it's going to be like that, sell out week in, week out, you've got to say these guys have got a serious opportunity of being up there come the end of the season. I think that game absolutely proves that. Playing like that against a team that should really be walking the league with the quality of players they've got, making them look as average as they did, I think really proves to me that Birmingham will be up there come the end of the season. Of course, it's only one match. We need to see Birmingham against kind of lesser opposition and see how they set up, because obviously Ipswich they tried to come to play and Birmingham didn't let them at all. We'll see how they kind of play against them lower down teams in the Championship and see how other teams set up against Birmingham. It would be very interesting to see. But as I say, really positive sounds coming out of Birmingham City there, and a lot to get excited about. Jay Stansfield scoring as well, really good for him. I think a lot of positivity, everything but the result. And we'll go on to the other point in a second, where we will be going back to this Birmingham game, so I want to mention something else about that game in the next point I'm going to make. But as I say, I just want to speak about some of the other newly promoted teams as well. Wrexham, of course, they were the one newly promoted team that did lose. Now, there's no denying that they bottled it, 1-0 up. They had chances in the first half. They had a chance with Ryan Hardy, which was an unbelievable save from Bazunu, by the way. That's probably the save of the weekend from Bazunu. Where Wrexham, they had chances in the first half as well. They looked really, really good on the counter-attack, and that kind of is the way that we expect Wrexham to be playing, especially away from home. It's going to be kind of maybe a different story when they're at home, when you look at the quality of their side. But Wrexham really impressed me on the counter-attack, very resolute defensively until it got to the 90th minute. But as I say, real positive signs for Wrexham. I think obviously going to a team that's just been relegated from the Premier League that, again, is expected to be right up there come the end of the season. I think they made a really good account of themselves, and they'll be absolutely gutted that they didn't get anything from the game. You know, they'll be gutted. I mean, I don't know if they'd even be gutted. I think they would have probably taken a point even with a 90th minute goal conceded. But to concede 2 in the 90th minute, for them, is absolutely heartbreaking. And, you know, as I say, they performed really well, but they didn't get the result. And Southampton, you know, as a relegated team from the Premier League, it's about, if you're not going to play the best, get the points on the ball. But by the way, Southampton also, you know, I say Wrexham on the counter-attack looked really dangerous and had chances. Also, Lewis O'Brien ran through with 87 minutes on the clock where he got tackled, where if he took the shot early, he might have been able to put it in. But as I say, for Southampton, you know, as a relegated team, it's about getting the points on the board. They created a lot of chances. Wrexham sat back and parked the bus in the second half and obviously just wanted to play on the counter-attack, which worked for them for the vast majority of the game. But Southampton has proved they have that kind of quality from the bench, Ryan Manning coming on and making a difference, and the quality in the starting 11. As I said, they've got so many options in terms of strikers to come on off the bench as well. Like, it is crazy. And, you know, 4.14 expected goals. You've got to kind of say that Southampton over the course of the game, based on that, probably... Yeah, I mean, I'd say a draw probably would have been a fair reflection even still, because Wrexham had a few chances on the counter-attack. But Southampton, they created a lot of chances. Not really too many kind of absolute clear-cut chances. A couple here and there. But as I say, Wrexham had big chances as well. As I say, 4 big chances for both sides. I think Wrexham gave a really good account of themselves, and Southampton will obviously be buzzing to go and grab the win in a game that was very, very difficult for them for large spells. But the substitutes made a big impact for Southampton, Mateus Fernandes, and as well as, of course, Ryan Manning, who was the game changer in that game. And Charlton Athletic, also as well, starting with a win. And really good for them against Watford. You know, to score in the last minute, the absolute scenes at the end with Nibs' goal was unbelievable. And Charlton, solid at the back. We saw it last season in League One. They didn't really let Watford have too much, to be honest. Watford just a one big chance in the game. And Nibs getting that goal in the 94th minute is just a perfect start for Charlton. Which, by the way, I got the Birmingham City prediction right. I'm pretty sure I predicted 1-0 to Charlton. I might have gone 2-1, but I feel like I went 1-0. And Wrexham and Southampton, I definitely predicted a Southampton win. So I was quite happy to get 3 for 3 with my predictions, with that one, to be honest. But yeah, I think Charlton, you know what you're going to get from them. They're going to be solid at the back under Nathan Jones, under his management. And as I say, the signings have really impressed me with Charlton, the business that they've done. And the signings impressed in that game. And overall, a very solid performance, which is what we expect from Charlton. We do expect them to be solid at the back, be very resolute, hard to beat, and be able to nick a few goals here and there and get a few results. And that is why I predicted Charlton pretty high in my prediction. I think I put them up in maybe at 17th, 18th. I think they'll be fine for relegation, personally. I think they've really got a strong squad, and they proved that. As for Watford, you know, it's the first game. I think it's always going to be tough for Watford going away to a newly promoted side. It's with the atmosphere at Charlton, it's kind of the worst time to play Charlton in the first game of the season. So I think Watford will be fine, but obviously not an ideal result to start into conceding the 94th minute. They'll be absolutely gutted with that. But Charlton, great return for them to the Championship from League One. As I say, the newly promoted teams to me have really, really impressed me in them games. I think all 3 of them have been very good in their own rights, and we'll see how they get on in future game weeks. And I also wanted to discuss the point of referees. I mean, it's a big talking point in the Championship, isn't it? But going back to the game between Ipswich and Birmingham, refereeing decisions were shambles. In the opening spell of that game, the ref was just literally blowing his whistle at the fact if somebody literally made the slightest bit of contact, the whistle will be blown. The penalty decision at the end, the Kyogo goal that he scored as well, that, you know, it doesn't add up. There's no consistency in his refereeing. And I think the way the referee refereed that game was very poor. And that was kind of the start of the whole weekend. You're always going to get decisions that go wrong, yeah, but this weekend it feels like there was quite a lot in general. The Southampton vs Wrexham game that I watched, the decisions were poor. And there's a lot of other teams, I'm sure you'll go in get in the comments, there was decisions in other games at referees, especially the, what was it? It was the Watford game. It was literally the Watford versus Charlton game. Sorry, going back to that game as well. Watford should have had a penalty. I think it might have been on Quaddy Bar, I think it was, who got brought down. And as well as that, Charlton, I think, should have had a penalty as well. I think the referee made 2 poor decisions there. You know, it's just what we've come to expect. But at the end of the day, for me personally, I don't want VAR in the game. You've just got to deal with the kind of bad decisions and the bad refereeing and just hope that it kind of evens out over the course of the season. That's what you got to hope over 40 games. I'm never really one to like berate the referee, especially I'm a QPR fan. If something goes wrong with the referee, you've just got to hope over the course of the season that it balances out, unless you can really feel hard done by if it was an absolute shocker decision. But as I say, you've just got to hope it kind of evens itself out over the course of the season. And I want to talk as well about the teams that I think have made a statement. And the team that's made the biggest statement of the weekend is Bristol City. I mean, going away to Sheffield United and putting 4 goals past them at Bramall Lane is just... I was watching that game and just like bewildered as to what was going on with Sheffield United's defence for a start. But the way Bristol City were on the counter-attack, they were so up for this game. Fair play to Struber. If that's the way that he's going to get that Bristol City playing, if he can get them playing like that week in, week out, then honestly, Bristol City had quite a lot to be excited about, because I think they were electric on the counter-attack. As I say, the stats, on another day, don't get me wrong, Sheffield United could have scored a few goals, they had chances, and as well, I think the goalkeeper of Bristol City was really good. And I say, on another day, they could have scored a couple more goals, and on another day, if they had a different defence, it could have been a different story. But I don't want to take anything away from Bristol City. Scott Twine, probably player of the weekend this weekend for me. I mean, it helps that I actually watched the game, and I watched it live on the TV. But this guy was unbelievable. A ridiculous free kick goal in that match. And as well, that getting another goal and an assist. As I say, Bristol City, they were all eating. And we'll get on to Sheffield United's defence in a second, but I want to give credit to them. I think Mehmeti's on it. He's one of the best players to watch in the Championship. McCrory going forward, a threat on the counter-attack, fantastic, getting up and down. And Emma Reese as well coming in, thinking, obviously getting an assist in his debut, a decent debut for him. And I think he was good at kind of running the channels and occupying that Sheffield United defence, which really struggled. Which, I mean, Cooper, he made one save? Yeah, one save in the match. Made a decent save. But other than that, he could have maybe done better on an odd one of the goals. I think the goals he couldn't really do too much about. Maybe one of them he could have done a little bit better. But that defence, like Norrington Davis, I mean, I don't want to like single out players, but he was disastrous. I know he's kind of more of a fullback, but in possession of the ball was an absolute liability. Defensively inept. The fact that Sheffield United have gone into the first game of the season with him in the back line as a centre-back, it concerns me for Sheffield United, I'm not going to lie. They're going to have to address that position badly, and they need at least minimum one centre-back. Definitely, I mean, I think 2 centre-backs is what they need. Norrington Davis put in an all-time stinker. He was the worst performer of the week, and I'd made a TikTok about it. I said, and that's one of the worst individual performances I've seen from a centre-back on live TV in the Championship that I've seen in a long time. Because that was disastrous. Gave the ball away for 2 of the goals and just looked out of his depth. And as I say, the fact that he's still playing for Sheffield United in 2025, and this guy, I mean, even as a backup, I wouldn't even want him. I just don't think he should be in League One. Like, I think that's genuine. That's my genuine opinion on him. So I'm surprised that they're rocking up with him in the first game of the season. They've only got Jack Robinson as kind of covering that position. It's not ideal, and I think Sheffield United definitely need to go back into the market and kind of address that. And I think the whole system in Sheffield United, Hamer in the middle of the pack. I mean, he played so well on the left hand side at the start of the season. I was thinking, why is he not in the middle? But kind of saw in the second half of the season on the left hand side he was very good. Of course, now the sign Louis Barry, who I actually thought was I thought he was pretty decent, to be fair. He definitely showed glimpses of what he can do in a Sheffield United shirt. I think there'll be more to come from him. But Bristol City, to a man, were fantastic. Jason Knight, I've spoken about numerous times. I think he's fantastic in the middle of the park. Such a combative midfielder who's so good off the ball and so good on the ball. Bristol City are always going to be a decent side when you've got a player like that in the middle of the park. And with the kind of just the kind of pace and the firepower they've got going forward in that game, especially, they proved that they could actually be very underrated this season. It's obviously only one game, but very impressed with Bristol City in that one. And a player that I just wanted to talk about individually, because I've spoken about him a little bit, and that was Isaac Price. I put him in my video where I was saying players to watch in the Championship this season. I said, I think this guy could be a breakout star this season. If you look at his record for Northern Ireland, I think he's scored like 9 goals, I think it is. Yeah, 9 goals for Northern Ireland in 22 matches. Got a really good scoring return, but in his playing career, in terms of his club football, he's never really been put in a position where he can thrive. I think he's played as a kind of wing back and kind of play everywhere Isaac Price can. And he's kind of been used in his career, from what I've seen anyway, as kind of like a utility man. And West Brom I expect now to kind of play him as a number 10, which is what he played in the game against Blackburn. And he really impressed. He was the best player on the pitch. And this guy's got so much quality. And as I say, 21 years old, he's a player to definitely keep an eye out for and watch out for this season. I think, for me personally, I think he's going to be a breakout star in the Championship this season. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he kind of gets on over the course of the season, playing in this new team under Ryan Mason, new manager, new ideas, and West Brom coming away with a 1-0 win against Blackburn in that game, which I think Blackburn's going to take them a little bit of time to kind of adjust because obviously they've made a lot of transfers in terms of outgoings and incomings as well. And West Brom, Hegebo getting the assist as well for the Isaac Price goal and a clean sheet as well. I think a decent start to the season there for West Brom, and Isaac Price is definitely one to watch over the course of the season. I think he could be one of them breakout stars. And as well as that, actually, I just want to speak about Stoke as well. I think Stoke have definitely, I mean, I know they scored 2 goals at the end, but generally they seem to put in a pretty decent performance against Derby. Derby were definitely not at the races. They were okay in spells, but for the most part, I think Derby were at the races. Lewis Baker scored a banger as well, by the way. And as well as that, I want to speak about Sorba Thomas, who scored, put in a good performance, got a goal and assist, but also the guy who set him up as well, Jamie Donnelly. Stoke have just brought him in from Leyton Orient from Spurs on a loan deal, but he was at Leyton Orient last season where Donnelly put up some really good numbers and was very, very decent. He came in off the bench, kind of really coolly slotted the ball across to Sorba Thomas, who, again, coolly slotted the ball into the back of the net to completely finish the game. Jamie Donnelly, 17 minutes came on for, picked up an assist, another one, mass Doxer and Jamie Donnelly this season. I think Stoke, they've made some decent signings. I'm not gonna lie. They've also brought in Nzonzi. They got a World Cup winner. They got a World Cup winner, mate, in the Championship. I mean, how many World Cup winners have we had in the Championship? Has there been any? I can't remember what off the top of my head. Let me know if there is any. But as I say, Jamie Donnelly, one to watch this season. And Stoke, I mean, I don't want to say they could do well this season because they never seem to do well. Whenever you think Stoke are going to do well, they don't. But I think they've got, personnel-wise, they've got some real good players and there's some quality. And I've spoken about Sorba Thomas and said I think he's going to be a really good signing. I really like Million Manu on his day. Is a very good player at Championship level and a very exciting player to watch. As I say, Sorba Thomas, really good set piece delivery, really good delivery in general. If he can chip in with some goals as well, which he has today, then another good positive with him. And as well, under Mark Robins as well, it's his first season. We saw the job that he did at Coventry. If he can do anything like that at Stoke, then Stoke could be in for a very good season. So I think Stoke there are definitely one to keep an eye on. They'll probably go and lose next week now, I've said it. But I mean, I was quite impressed with Stoke, and I think Stoke fans definitely have a reason to kind of be a lot more upbeat than what they maybe have been in previous years, which is good to see. So, that will do for the video anyway. If you enjoyed it, drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. It'd be very greatly appreciated. It only takes 1 second, and it would mean a lot to me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.